My name is Margot Dushin. I'm Director of Programs for Harvard Business School's Social Enterprise Initiative. I also want to thank my colleagues from the iLab who are here and helped us in bringing out today's session. I want to introduce two of our panelists. These two panelists were participants in the New Venture Competition in recent years, and we reached out to them so they could share their own experiences in developing their plan and where they are now. We have DJ and Lissy. And DJ, I'm wondering if you can start us off and just give us a very brief description of your plan and the elevator pitch.
Sure. A lot of pressure. Thanks everyone for coming out. Hopefully I can be helpful. But I'm the co-founder of a company called the Entrepreneurial Finance Lab, EFL. EFL developed a psychometric and non-traditional credit score to help bank the unbankable in emerging markets. So using things like measuring personality, even mobile usage, behavior, intelligence, business skills, and incorporating that into a credit score in the absence of credit bureaus, formal financials, and a lot of places that we operate.
Lissy.
Hi, my name is Lissy Hu, and I'm the co-founder of Careport. We were formerly known as eTransitions. We had a bunch of trademark issues, which were fun to deal with last summer. But what we do is we book care for patients. And so some of you might have heard of ZocDoc, where you can book an appointment with a physician. We do sort of intermediate level care, so physical therapists, rehab centers, visiting nurses. And the way that it happens right now, it's very manual. It's like basically you have lists of different facilities or service providers. You're calling every single one to see if they take your insurance, if they can meet your clinical needs. And what we do is automate that with an online booking engine.
And what I should note is similar about both of these ventures is they did participate in the New Venture Competition, and both of them launched. Not all of the ventures that participate launch in a form, but these two did launch just by chance. Can you tell us, how did you come up with the idea, and how did you know it was worth pursuing among all the ideas that could be out there?
Oh, sure. So I was an MD MBA candidate, so I had trained at the Harvard hospitals, and even before that I had worked on a Medicare demonstration project where I had managed these care transitions for about 3,000 patients. And so really had gone through the nitty-gritty of trying to find and book care for those 3,000 patients. And, it's just a really painful and time-intensive process. And so that's when I really got a sense of the problem. When I started to think that this idea of an online booking engine could really help, on some level, we've seen online booking engines in so many different other industries. It wasn't that far of a jump to say, hey, maybe an online booking engine would work. But I think when I really started thinking about it was during the during the New Venture contest, we actually took sort of our solution to Mass General Hospital and said, hey, is this something you would implement? And they said, yeah, it's a great idea. If you can launch this, we'd love to pilot it. And I think that was when we were like, oh, I think if Mass General will do it, then it seems like other people would do it too. So that's sort of how it happened.
Cool. The other thing I'd like to point out, I don't know about Lizzie, but the other thing we might have in common is we both didn't win the social venture track. So did you?
I won.
But this is proof that you don't have to win to be successful.
I've successfully not won many business plan competitions and launched many ventures. So just in case you don't win, you can keep power through.
I would have to say that if you look at our track history, winning doesn't necessarily mean success, and success doesn't necessarily mean that you won. So.
Anyway. Back to sorry for myself.
But I still won.
So I think for me, two ways. One, I actually got out into the field to see the problem firsthand. Most of you starting businesses and starting social ventures, you probably have a kind of firsthand idea of the problem. Getting in the field and seeing how the actual people who work closely with the problem deal with it. In other words, I guess solving a problem that's there instead of a problem that you're creating is really important. And to answer the question the second way, how I got involved, is somewhat less fulfilling, but I kind of made myself known as someone that wanted to be in social enterprise, wanted to be in access to finance, microfinance, in our section around HBS. And eventually, the technology purveyors were a couple of professors from the Kennedy School. So they were kind of fishing out volunteers to help them figure out a business plan, go down and work on the problem themselves. So just by kind of selling yourself and what you're interested in and getting awareness, you'll have people connect you with ideas. And not everyone can invent every good idea, but there are people, as Professor Grossman said, who need to make those ideas happen. So
We're going to be opening up to the group in a few minutes, so start thinking about what you'd like to ask as well. I'd like you to bring yourself back to the competition and when you were developing the idea. And we oftentimes hear pivot points, learning and adapting and something that tells you that you need to change your approach in some way. Did either of you have pivot points during the process, whether it was during the competition or shortly thereafter, that you can share with us? We'll start with you, DJ.
Sure. So I first got involved with these guys during J-term, and then obviously the business plan competition was after that. And so I think I had a first iteration of the business plan myself. And the biggest pivot point, I think, as Professor Grossman again said, is get out there and kind of pitch the idea to different disparate groups of folks. Also took the opportunity to surround myself with different people with different skill sets on my team. So I was an entrepreneur kind of prior to business school, surrounding myself with some bankers and consultancy types. I think one of the most important things there was, one, it challenges your language, the type of language you use, so make sure that that's appropriate to the industry and to the folks that you're dealing with. And then two, when you bring in outsiders and when you pitch a number of times, you're going to hear a lot of skeptics. As Professor Grossman again said, you're very optimistic as an entrepreneur. You want to bring in the skeptics not to discourage you, but because those are the questions that every other person you pitch the idea to are going to have as well. So it helps you be prepared for the questions and that sort of thing that'll come up as you pitch and as you sell in general.
One of the things that we really sort of spun around on was our pricing model. And I think it goes to Professor Grossman's point about really sort of getting out there and, what DJ was talking about, really trying to get as much feedback as you can, and especially from people who can be your customers or your users, right? So our original pricing model, it made sense that it would be sort of a referral fee, right? Like you're in the same way that Yelp charges a portion for restaurant referrals or things like that. It made sense that we would charge a per patient referral fee. And then when we went and spoke to Mass General and Brigham, they said, no way, that's illegal. So we had done all this like amazing financial modeling about, how our revenue would ramp up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it turns out that no one in the industry does this because even though technically it's not illegal, it can seem like a facility's buying patients, and so nobody likes to do it that way. And so that was just such a silly mistake that we made. We wasted so much time modeling everything out when we could have just learned that from talking to our customers and vetting all those key ideas with your customers before you actually sit down and start writing everything out.
One of the things that Professor Grossman talked about was building your team and how to prove yourself in the field. And as you're starting this early in your career, how did you think about that? How did you think about, first of all, doing this instead of other career paths that you might take? And did you have any challenges as you were approaching people because you're early in your career?
Okay. So my team was, I had the MD background. We got someone else with an MBA background who'd been in banking and PE for a couple years. The hardest struggle was finding technical talent. And it's just such a tough market to hire engineers and to not just hire, an engineer, but really to get a technical co-founder. That's something I really wish I had spent more time on, just cultivating those relationships and building that network. Because we won last May, and we didn't get a technical co-founder until January. And we had to rely on contractor solutions, which really slows your iteration cycles. And because you're a startup, you have limited capital, you need to be really efficient at how you deploy that capital. And so getting the right team in place right off the bat is so important. It'll speed things up a lot for you guys.
I think from my perspective, one of the most important parts, especially as you form a team for like a competition, is that you're probably going to have a lot of folks, 4, 5, 6, and you can't run a business with that many folks, especially as a founding team. So I think one of the most important things, just like in running a business, is saying no. One of the most important things is finding out which of the kind of members of the team should go forward and work with the business. We had a situation where we had 3 co-founders. One, is a professor, and so figuring out what kind of his role would be on the team going forward. And finally, one thing I'd say about it, and we're a for-profit, so I'll speak from that vantage point, but it's just as relevant, I think, in the nonprofit space. When it comes to ownership and equity and things like that, 1% of nothing is not a lot. And so, be free and be liberal with your ownership, be it through equity or kind of board seats or whatnot with folks to give yourself the greatest chance to get to stage 2 rather than kind of having infighting in stage 1 as you're worrying about the details and comp and stuff.
I'd like to see what questions we have out here. And I'm going to ask if you can frame your questions in a general way that you think would benefit the group. And if you have more specific questions, then I think Lissy and DJ might be able to hang out for a couple minutes afterwards. But if anyone has questions at this stage, we'd love to bring them in. Back here.
I'm curious just to know how far along you are with your prototype by the time you have the business plan actually submitted. Are you demonstrating the product or those were conceptual phase?
So the question was, how far along were you in your prototype when you launched?
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that was one of the points I wanted to get across, so thanks. I think that regardless of whether it's, a for-profit or non-profit, having proof of concept as demonstrated by your customers using it is the most important thing that you can have. And so I think we had a proof of concept in the sense that there had been research done from an academic perspective on which characteristics and traits would prove default and success. But we didn't have kind of ex post analysis of loans being made against the tool. And when you're selling to a bank, that's what they want to see. So anything kind of researchy is not quite the same. So to the extent that you can go out, even if it's a small number of observations, and show in the field that you can sell the product or work with the customers, that's the best thing possible.
Yeah, we were in the similar position. We had sort of academic research and small pilots that other people had done, but we definitely, when we were pitching to investors, it was still very much concept phase.
I guess I would also say it's very different to sell something as a, hey, will you participate in a research study? I'm from Harvard, et cetera. Then it's to get them to sign on. We had, I think, 11 partners in the research phase. And one of them actually signed on in the kind of the go forward private enterprise space. So it's a lot easier to say you can use the Harvard logo on the website as a in the research phase than is to get people to give money over the table.
Yes, over here.
Hi, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about timing and if you had any other competing opportunities that you were thinking about as you graduated and how you weighed those against the risks and the opportunity of going through the venture.
So I guess it applies for me a little bit less because I was an RC when I did it at the time, and so it was nice to do it as an RC and then have the summer to explore it.
And RC's first year of the 2-year program.
But it made for a busier first year.
And Lissy, how are you thinking about it going forward in terms of the options that you have ahead of you?
The track was either to finish up residency or to do this, and so pretty drastic life changes. To cut to the chase, I'm choosing this, which totally freaks my parents out. But I think for me, we started getting a lot of traction in terms of getting more and more hospitals on board. We also closed the seed round, and at that point, we sort of gotten too far for me to step back since I was co-founder and CEO, and investors were investing in me as much as the idea, and so I guess it's just I agonized over it for a very long time, but clearly I was moving towards doing this, and so no matter how mentally agonized I was, I sort of had already made the decision.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke about not having any other job options, but when I think about it, I actually didn't interview for any jobs when I was at school. So I think that job interviews to me are kind of like golden handcuffs. You know that they're going to explode at some point in time. It's going to force you into a suboptimal decision, usually, unless you can kind of like corral all of them to be at the same point. And especially when you're kind of searching out to get investment or to kind of hire a team to come on board, I think you kind of have to make the decision. I know a lot of folks I graduated with that didn't graduate with jobs. I had the fortune to come in right as the financial crisis started, which was awesome. And none of them are bagging groceries now, so they're doing fine. So, if the worst case scenario, you take 6 months off and you've done your startup and it didn't work out, like you're going to end up on your feet. The type of folks who want to hire someone that kind of went out and struck out and did something entrepreneurial and things like that are going to find you. You'll be fine.
Do you think there's a benefit to doing this early in your career rather than waiting? Obviously, but can you tell us why?
I definitely think so, and I think it's. I mean, being in a startup is so time intensive. Like, it's 80-hour weeks. You always have to be on call. It's so risky. I think it would be hard for me to take this type of risk at a later point in my life. And I think the other thing is that you can land on your feet, right? Like, if your startup blows up, and that's great, but if it blows up the bad way, then you're 2 years out. You can look for another job. You can go to that consulting firm that you thought about going to. I mean, you'll be fine if you fail now, versus I think later it's hard to make that transition.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely haven't been flying first class for the last few years, but it seems to be going well so far.
Over here.
When you guys were structuring your organization and you have a for-profit, you have a non-profit, was that sort of an easy decision, or was it difficult to figure out how you were going to structure it, and what were the decisions that you went through to figure out how you were going to structure it?
Did everybody hear that question? It was about what legal structure for the organization, whether nonprofit or for-profit, and how you thought about that.
Yeah, for us, it was a pretty easy decision. Again, going back to actually approaching your customers before you kind of form the business. I think that we found, to the point I said earlier about if you're a part of Harvard or a research project, they treat you differently than you're a for-profit. Since we viewed, in order to tackle the problem, kind of the missing middle and access to finance, we viewed the best mechanism, at least in stage one, to do that through was the actual financial institutions themselves. So selling this kind of credit score as a tool to increase lending with existing financial institutions. Talking to those folks, they view institutions very differently, companies very differently. If you're a nonprofit, kind of like grant-funded NGO, versus if you're a for-profit organization that has to stand on its own two legs. That's how they see the world. So for us, it made more sense to be able to go to them as, we're separate, we're not an NGO, we're not part of the university. We have other private customers, things like that.
Yeah, similarly, we talked to our customers, which are hospitals, and they said we don't buy things from nonprofits or use tools from nonprofits because we just don't know how long, before the grant funding is over. And so they preferred, all their vendors are for-profit companies.
Just to give you some context, within the New Venture Competition, we have our entries pretty much split in half, about half nonprofit and about for-profit hybrid. Other question? Yes?
Just on modeling. DJ, did you rely upon Vodafone and its experience in persuading some of the ministers to allow it to expand into that kind of micro market? And did you look for modeling to other projects, such as implementations from major corporations such as Welch Allen, getting their instruments throughout the industry?
Yeah, we definitely kind of surveyed the landscape to see how folks sell to people and things like that. We had specific markets that we were already working with because of the research pilots, and so we looked into that as well. But no one was quite doing exactly what we were doing, which I'm sure everyone says, and so we had to strike out on our own a little bit. If you ever walk into a room full of bankers and say you're doing psychometric testing, you get a lot of laughs. So it's a bit of a new trail.
Yeah, and for us, I think the most common question that I got asked when I was pitching throughout the competition was, well, how are you different from your competitors? Who are your competitors? What are the alternative solutions? So that's definitely something that you have to be looking into. And so we, again, looked at, what are hospitals doing now? What tools are they using? A lot of that just came from market research from Baker Library and also interviews with customers. But that is a question you will get asked.
Can you talk about the timing and the relationship between the competition and your investment? How it helped you or maybe hurt you getting investment?
the timing between the competition and the investment. So when we raised money.
Sure, and if there was any relationship between those two.
Sure. So we finished up. So we won the business competition last May. Spent all summer sort of getting more traction, improving out and implementing our pilot at Mass General and getting more proof points. And then really started fundraising this winter, and we're just closing our round now. So I started fundraising in November, and our close day is end of this month. And do I think that the business competition helped in terms of having the brand and attracting investors? I think frankly, I mean, yes, it did. But I think more helpful was giving yourself time to build enough traction and proof points. And in that way, you get a better valuation, too.
Yeah, so we're still bootstrapped, so and we didn't win the competition. We couldn't put that on the resume. But so more for us, it was just important to get experience pitching it, get comfortable with it. 2 days after I graduated, I was on a plane to South Africa, pitching in front of the biggest bank in Africa, Standard Bank. And so, it was more of just kind of brass tacks, like learning how to do the pitch and refining the presentation, getting feedback so that actually went better.
Can you talk a little bit more about how you leveraged some of the resources here at the school, so beyond the New Venture Competition? Were there other resources, whether they were classes or the iLab or other ways, classmates?
Yeah, this is my favorite question because I think...
I didn't know that.
I mean, honestly, the value of the Harvard name and this whole experience has been tremendous for us, both kind of in giving kind of at least a stamp so that people will look at your kind of pitch, but then more importantly, specifically to HBS, I guess, having the resources that you can call on for feedback is great. Having financial resources, so to the extent, I'm not sure what's available, but when we enter the competition, you have some resources. If you do kind of an independent study, you have some resources, which enabled us to go down to Peru to do some due diligence. And then most importantly, having the kind of email, at something.harvard.edu, and having the access to the alumni database. I sent an email out to someone with kind of going through the database. So spam that thing early and often. Go through there, find people you think are interesting. You'll probably get a 70 or higher % hit rate while you're a student, and I still get a greater than 0 hit rate for as a salesperson. That's enough to make you want to do it. So use those resources while you're a student. It's even better to be able to have conversations with folks. They want to help. They're excited that people reach out, and less people reach out, I think, than you probably think. So you're not going to be one of 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, definitely hit up the alumni database. That was really helpful. Also, getting professors to act as your advisors and potentially becoming part of your advisory board, that was really helpful. I mean, they have some credibility and can really give you sort of good feedback. That's sort of not feedback from an investor standpoint, but really feedback from someone who's on your side.
So 2 questions. Firstly, when you were doing testing for your nonprofit, how did you develop metrics for what the test was supposed to be? Because when you're looking at a for-profit, it's very easy to figure out what a customer wants to pay for. But for your respective nonprofits, it's different. So how does somebody like us go out and find the right metrics to test? And second question, when you went out and you talked to investors and they turned you down, what was it that they said as one of the main critiques of your presentation? Aside from the fact that they personally were not invested.
So I think for us, I mean, when we were thinking about metrics, we looked at what our competitors were doing and looking at things. I think that's a really good starting point. And then I think also talking to potential investors is a really good way to figure out the right metrics. So one of the questions, even before we started raising money, that we asked was, hey, I have this idea. What are some of the milestones you'd like me to, accomplish before I start raising money, before I go down that path? What are some of the weaknesses that you want me to validate? So that was really helpful, but I think it really varies from business to business, right? So we're very much a B2B business, and so what they want to see is customers and revenue. If we were a consumer-facing business, they'd want to see number of users and traction in that piece. So you have to feel that out in terms of what your customers think is traction and what investors think is traction.
Yeah, and I think to your question, I'm not sure that the difference between a for-profit and a nonprofit is that stark, because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, you're paying money, and for a nonprofit, it might be using some of their grant funding or something, but it's more the things that get them to want to do that. So for us, it was, you have to figure out, does a bank want to increase its portfolio size? Do they want to decrease the risk of the portfolios that they want to serve, or do they want to decrease their operational costs? So I think within any sort of business, you're listening first to what they want to do, and then you're kind of adapting your metrics to what works. As far as the pushbacks on pitch, I think it all boils down to proof of concept. I mean, I don't know about selling to hospitals, but I imagine it's pretty similar. Like selling to banks is the slowest thing possible, and they're very risk averse. They're very slow moving, and so they don't want to be the first mover. A lot of times, they want to make sure the risk is mitigated and the opportunity and the upside is increased. So, to the greatest extent that you can assuage their concerns about other people have done this, or here's a way that you can test it without putting yourself to so much risk, this will help you out probably.
We have just a minute left. I'm going to ask each of you to give a final word of wisdom, nugget of advice to the group here who might be thinking about starting their own ventures. We'll start with you, Lissy.
So I think first of all, I think you guys should definitely do it. I mean, it was just such a good experience, and it really prepared me when I approached investors, because I had already done all the background research. I had already pitched, so I think it's really valuable experience. A couple of things that I feel like I should have, looking back, I wish I had focused more attention on is team. Professor Grossman is really right. They would much rather invest in an A team with a B idea than a whatever the converse is. But team is really, really important, because team allows you to say, hey, we can get this done. We can actually execute. So really focus on getting the right team in place. And I think just go and take that risk, we're so young. If you do it now, you won't have any regrets. You really won't.
Yeah, I think, echoing what Lizzie said, and I think I've said this numerous times, get the proof of concept. That's the most important thing you can possibly do. Find a way, go on spring break, do something to get yourself in the field, to show kind of, that you know what you're talking about, and that people will use the product, whatever it is. Second, and again, coming from the sales guy, I mean, leave no stone unturned. Unabashedly reach out to folks for help. Unabashedly reach out to folks for drinks to talk about your idea. You're your one-man, one-person marketing unit, and that's going to continue after you graduate and after you're in the startup as well. So you got to kind of have that drive, and you never know where you're going to meet folks that are going to kind of increase the business. I think I spoke at an HBS event a couple years ago, and then a recent HBS grad just joined us as our head of biz dev, and now she's traveling to Pakistan today instead of me having to be there. So good things can come in lots of different sizes. And then finally, I think to echo Lizzie, I remember when I first came to HBS, kind of mentor said, the best advice that they ever got from a professor at school was, if you're not doing it as a Harvard graduate or whatnot, then who's doing it? Who has less to risk? Who has more opportunities? Who has more kind of support? So I think it's a charge to get out there and do it. I don't think the downside is that tremendous. I think the upside is fantastic. I'm wearing jeans every day. That's great, right? So good luck. And if I can help, I'll stick around and be happy to share my contact information as well.
Yeah. And I'll just add, good luck. Go forth. Do it. And we hope that in a couple years we have some of you guys up here. So thanks for joining us.